Okay. Alrighty. Thank you for checking out our video today on the Maine Mock Trial Competition. Kind of like a little info session for folks on what the Maine Mock Trial Competition is, how do we get information, what might you need to do if you are interested in starting one on at your own school. I'm Breanna Bellefontaine-Krupski. I'm one of the Civics I'm one of the Teacher Leader Fellows in the Civics one up at the State of Maine DOE this year. And I'm also a teacher at Scarborough High School. And I'm joined by Amanda Doherty, who's coordinator of the Maine Mock Trial Competition. And she's going to kind of give some information today about what the Maine Mock Trial Competition is all about and why it's such a great program. I was able to participate in it for 7 or 8 years. At my prior district I taught in, it's a really robust program, does amazing things for students that are interested in civics, government, and the law process. Nothing but wonderful things that my students always had to say about the Maine Mock Trial Competition. So I am going to stop my sharing and I will let you walk us through what it's all about. Thanks for being here.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. My sharing will be slightly less exciting, but I'm just going to share our website just so folks can see it. Basically, I mean, the Maine High School Mock Trial program has been around for such a long time, which is great, but it's evolved quite a bit. It used to be kind of one-off rounds on various days of the week in different locations, and now we have it kind of more streamlined to really feel like a traditional competition, much like the national program. So I've been the state coordinator for Maine High School Mock Trial for what year are we in? Since 2012. So this will be my 13th, I'm sorry. Yes, my 13th year coordinating the competition. And basically, schools are invited from all over the state. And what happens is we typically have folks register in like late August, early September. Certainly can register earlier than that. In fact, I encourage it, but it can happen kind of right when school is starting. There is a fact pattern or a case that is put together over the summer that is then sent out in early September. Teams then utilize that case to prepare for a trial. It's typically a criminal case, and so they prepare both the prosecution and the defense side for competition. So it's really great where you're not just dealing with one side or the other in case the fact pattern is ever unbalanced in any way. In October, I typically host a workshop. Used to be in person, but folks seem to like the virtual method these days. So a virtual workshop. It helps in two ways. One is just to, check in with me about the case, but also for folks that need more support when it comes to the mechanics of a trial. Perhaps it's only teacher coaches and no attorney coaches, that I'm able to offer some basic information about things like evidence and procedure. Then the competition starts typically in early to mid-November. We have preliminary rounds that typically allow schools to do 4 preliminary trials. Then things are narrowed down to a semifinal, and then finally to a final round, which is usually early December. And whoever wins that final round typically represents the state of Maine at the National High School Mock Trial Competition, which is happens various places this year. It was in Arizona
Wow.
in May.
That's cool.
So one of the things that I often get a question about, and that I think is so important, well, really 2 things. One is that schools do not have to do this just in the classroom, nor does it just have to be an extracurricular activity. So it's really whatever the schools want to do. Typically there's folks that are overextended in extracurriculars, so sometimes that's hard. But in a social studies or civics class, teachers can make this part of their curriculum. And then certainly if, there's extra times you all want to meet, that's on you to put together. Other people have it solely as an extracurricular. It's entirely voluntary and just have to find times to meet. So I really encourage folks to look into the way that works best for their school without us kind of dictating how that happens. You need a minimum really of 8 students in order to compete, but you certainly can have more than that as well.
Yeah.
The other question I get a lot about is, well, do we have to be a certain place like geographically in order to compete? And really the answer is no. At this point, especially with how long I've been running the competition, I can really have this hosted in really any courthouse in the state where there's 2 schools within relatively close distance, as long as there are volunteer attorneys or judges and court security in order to open up the courthouse and open up a courtroom. One thing that we did just last year with approval from the Maine High School Mock Trial Board that I serve on is we have opened up the option of schools in maybe more rural areas or with smaller populations to join together to form a team, much like the Maine Principals Association does with sports. We also are extending that option. It's really my hope and desire in general to have more schools throughout the state being able to get the benefits of this great program. But I especially have wanted to do outreach and have attempted some outreach to schools in our more rural areas so that students there who are interested in public speaking, legal careers in the future, et cetera, can participate. If you, Breanna, anything else you think I should add about those mechanics?
I don't think so. I didn't know if you wanted to put the website in the chat.
Yeah, I can certainly do that. I keep having my screen, my little window on my screen go away. So let's see here. Yeah, here we go. 1 second.
That way.
I think I just stopped sharing, which I will fix in a moment. I apologize. I got a new laptop, so some of my settings are are off from what they used to be. Here we go.
That was mine too. So that way I can have the record for us to post it for people later.
That would be, yeah. So here is the website, and what I'll do is I'll reshare and just walk folks through just the pages really quickly.
Yeah.
It's very, very basic website, which is how you know I created it. But we it's just kind of the general page. There's an about us that just summarizes kind of the program and our goals and values and who serves as an evaluator. Information about me, which I don't really need to bore you with today unless you have questions. The materials page is probably the single most important page. So registration technically is open for the next school year. The deadline right now is September 12th. If you click here, that will take you to a registration form that you can fill out and send back to me. Here in the middle is the part that discusses about cooperative schools or collaborative schools. And so you can click here to find the cooperative team application. And then here are 3 links. One is our rules and policies document. So this is the document when I have teachers or schools or attorneys reach out saying, I want to form a team. You know, what do I do? What is this about? That's really the document to look at. It outlines our purpose, but it also outlines kind of the nitty-gritty rules. And it's updated in the fall once we have our specific competition dates. So the one that you see there now will certainly be from it was some older or tentative dates, but it really outlines things well. The rules of evidence here are the National High School Mock Trial Rules of Evidence. I now serve on the National High School Mock Trial Rules Board. And so I'm thankfully, I stay up to date on when proposed changes are made. And so my goal is to have us certainly be successful at nationals as well as creating just this opportunity for students. And so I try and over the years, I've been trying to update things as much as we can here so that we're setting folks up for success if they go to nationals. And one of those was a change. So we're using the exact same rules of evidence.
Nice.
Finally, there's a link to the case itself. Obviously, that would be last year's case for right now, but that's where it can be accessed. One other thing I wanted to highlight for folks in terms of spreading the word is our support page. So not only support from a financial perspective, but also from a volunteer perspective. So I've created a link here, which is if you want to serve as an attorney or judge volunteer this way, and folks can just go to this link and sign up. You do need to be an attorney or a judge, magistrate in really any court. It doesn't have to be Maine. I've actually had folks that have come up to Maine for the holidays or for skiing, and they've stepped in and volunteered from out of state, which is pretty cool.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and then down here is the reality of everything these days, which is that you do need money to run these competitions. So there's support, there's information here about how you can donate to our program and where you might send a check if you're interested. Um, and then our contact page gives my email address. And then there's also a kind of a general form here, which ends up sending me a message directly. So tried to get just the basic information that I typically get emails about in one spot, so that people can use it and refer to it. But really my goal is for folks to understand how amazing this program is for students that want to learn civics education and public speaking. I started doing, well, it was a mock trial I did in 5th grade social studies class that actually made me want to be a lawyer. Clearly that idea stuck. But I did more formal mock trials starting when I was 16, and kind of never stopped. And now here I am. But you don't even have to be interested in being a lawyer to do this as a student. Some schools don't have debate. So this is good public speaking. But I think what's really interesting about our program, different from debate, is the teamwork that's involved and kind of the traditional civics education that it allows. So I really hope to see more of our schools in general in Maine joining this program, or at least maybe observing this year to join next year. But I especially am hoping that our rural schools will say, oh yeah, I could totally do this and get involved. And like I said, as long as I have 2 within a reasonable distance of a courthouse, I can make it happen just about anywhere.
It's wicked awesome. I know from just a teacher standpoint and like having this ability to do so for a while, it was really transformative for a lot of different kids. And I taught at one of the larger, more rural high schools in the state of Maine for a long time. And at that school, we had a very mixed group of kids almost every year compete in this. And it's really provides an awesome avenue to get that mixture of students and get like those kids who might not necessarily, think of it being like, oh, they want to perform or do some legal work or
Yeah,
detailed writing. And they shine. And it's such an amazing thing to see them all come together from different walks of life and have them produce a large piece of showcase of evidence
absolutely.
for learning. So it's truly amazing to see it played out, and the kids really get into it. The cases are always great. They're always relevant to kind of something that's happening, always connective, and the kids have fun with it, and they learn so many good skills.
And the attorneys and judges that volunteer, I'm sure, when they initially sign up for something happening on a weekend, I'm sure it's all right, I'll go help this program. But I will tell you, I only get positive feedback about how impressive the students are, how much work they put into it. My favorite comments are we think you might be a little better than real lawyers that,
Yes.
that we see. And like you said, we have essentially like a case bank that we use. And so I try and look for ones that have issues that are relevant to high school students, or something that would be good for them to learn from, because I think it helps them get into it more. So we've had, texting while driving cases and bullying cases and social media cases. And, the goal is to kind of continue in that vein and try and do that just to make it an even more relevant experience.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And the kid, like, they do love it too. Even like, I know sometimes they can be like, oh man, it's on the weekend. And I was like, yep, you'll be fine. And then after they do the first one, they're like, when's our next one? Like, I want to
Yeah,
improve this. And now I know I'm going to do this point and I'm going to go and fix my question on this and do this one
yeah,
better. They always get all into it, which is awesome. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
curious, how many schools do you have participating right now from
So
last year?
sure. So like everything else, COVID had a big impact on our numbers. So pre-COVID, we usually had around 24 schools competing. During the 2 years that we had to have a virtual competition, we had around 10. We've had like 12 to 14 participating since COVID, which is great. It's better than nothing, but I think there's just been a lot of turnover in teacher staff. There's a lot of times, I send out my email, hey, registration materials are ready, and I get a bounce back, because folks have around and maybe new schools the teachers go to just aren't, prepared to take on the program. But we also have long-term schools that, just had to kind of streamline for financial reasons. But, the registration fee is $300. Obviously, there's costs for probably a school bus and things like that. But with the exception of the team that goes to nationals, the cost to the schools is really so minimal, especially considering how rewarding this is.
Yes.
And so in order to also make this more competitive, right, so people can go against different schools and really kind of branch out and see what else is going on, the preference is really that, that we get back up into those, 25 or even more, honestly, schools. I think when I looked at a list, there's like 70 some odd high schools in the state of Maine. I mean, honestly, I'd love if every single school competed and we could support that if we needed to, honestly. But I would love if even just half of our schools in the state would compete. That would just be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I know because I did it in high school, and I know when I did it in high school, it was up to like some of the higher numbers in terms of around 25, 30 schools that were competing, and it's really can't express this enough. So if you're watching this, like, please consider if this is something you're thinking, how can we increase student engagement? That's been a big topic for a lot of high schools. How can you increase student engagement? How can you bring some of those real life applications into your classroom? This is a really beneficial part of it. I have like a couple statements just from some former students that myself and my co-teacher at the time who had this were doing. Mock trial gave me confidence to pursue certain types of careers that involved more public speaking. Prior to this, I had very, very tough anxiety and almost to the point didn't think I would ever be able to speak out in public in a situation like this. I want to thank the opportunity for having mock trial as a competition during my high school career, as it gave me the confidence to choose to do harder things and pursuing things in my adult life, which was a huge, wonderful.
I love that.
It was awesome. Um, and then I had another one from another student. I ended up working with kids who I didn't even know existed in this school, and we became great friends. Not only did I learn a lot of good skills, but I learned how to work with people as well. So it goes beyond kind of just learning some of that legal language and practicing those skills. It really does help kids build confidence and really does help them interact with each other, which are all applicable to various different things.
It's almost like the law part of it's really the icing on the cake to all of the other things, that it does. I remember when I was in high school and I did mock trial, like I said, I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 10. So I was like anywhere I could get it. But I had, someone who is now in the military, was on our team that I'm still friends with, someone that works in the business industry. And we've talked about it at reunions or things like that. And it's like, it just offered an opportunity to learn something new, assess a skill, get up in front of people, talk to people. And, the interesting thing about our high school mock trial competition and college mock trial that it leads into is that you typically have your fellow students are witnesses, right? And so it's not like law school or real life where the witnesses are people you don't know particularly well or strangers in some instances. And so it allows people even that opportunity. Okay, maybe you don't want to be that advocate up there giving an opening statement. Well, that's okay. How about you're part of the experience where you learn a character and you answer as if you're in that role. When I was in college, one year, my roommate, who was a theater major, joined mock trial because she thought it would be fun to play a witness. Drama students get involved. I mean, it really reaches out to everyone.
Yeah. And I can't, again, I can't express that enough. Like, I've never had a student, I mean, we had 8 years of it, never had a student ever say that they didn't get something pretty impactful out of it. And I can't say that about all my other classes I have or
Right,
activities I have, right? Like, but
right.
this one experience that I can definitely say, this is applicable, this is real life application, this is like that cross,
Yep,
classroom to real life skill application is this program.
right. Absolutely, I agree.
Awesome. Anything else you think folks should know? And I have
Just
the
don't be
website.
afraid to reach out. Look at our website, look at the information, reach out if there are questions. But I think just because of the timing of our competition, it's important people don't think, oh, I'll look at this again in September. Think about it now. And even if it's
Yeah,
just you want to come and observe a competition, I've had people do that. Teachers do that, a couple of their students. But look forward to, the future. And maybe this is a, fall of 2026 thing you're going to do. But we want the program, to sustain itself because of the positive impact on students. And so I really hope people seriously consider doing this and are aware of, the support they can get from me or their community members to get through it because it's an amazing experience.
it really is. It's wicked awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for being with us today. And I'm going to do everything I can on my end to try to spread as much of the good word. I would love also equally to see some more schools participate and get
Definitely.
some more smaller rural schools up there too, because opportunities, it's great to kind of spread it out, and especially up in northern Maine where we want to kind of spread that love up there too. So
Absolutely. My parents are both born and raised in Aroostook County, and I come from a family of teachers. So I have a special place in my heart wanting schools in Aroostook County to get involved, especially.
yes,
So yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Awesome. Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you, Breanna.